I've been making a lot of geode resin coasters lately, and I gave my black diamond pigments a go. They work really good in this type of piece. Check it out, and let's get started here on Moonkusser Art. Welcome back, everybody. It's Janet here, and I'll be using Counterculture DIY. It's their Artist Resin, and it's their medium viscosity. I've dropped a link for a discount code if you're interested in trying their resin. It's really good for coasters because it has an extremely high heat rating, up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect for coasters. One of the other products that I'm using in this video today is the Black Diamond Pigments. Now these are mica pigments. They're in a powder form, and this is their, which one is this? This is the emerald green, and I'm speeding up my mixing. I have a little bit of 99% alcohol that I put in the cup with the powder pigment, and that way I turned it into a little bit of a paste. And look at that shine. Is that not beautiful? I'm excited to use this. It's so pretty. The other color that I'm going to be using is going to be the Hunter Green. And again, it's another real pretty mica powder. These are all mica powders from Black Diamond. And again, I have a link to their website, and you can shop there. They have so many different colors. Check them out. They are really good to use in resin. Take your time and just mix that pigment in carefully. And look at that shine. Is that not pretty? Oh, these are going to look so good in the resin. I know it. All right, now we have Black Diamond's pearl, or not pearl white. This is their pure white. And I, again, had mixed it up to make it a paste, but it looked like it dried out a little bit. So I just wanted to add a couple more drops of 99% alcohol before I add my resin in. So here we go. We'll get that in there. And we're going to incorporate this pigment into the resin. And I am speeding up the footage a little bit, but it does not take long at all because it's been moistened. So it goes right in there, and look at that shine. These colors are going to be so pretty in the geodes. Okay, pure white. And I like to have a little bit of sparkle in the centers of my geodes. So here's a little bit of chunky glitter by Recollections. I get this at Michael's Craft Stores. And this is their pine green. All right, and for one of my clear pigments, transparent I should say, I'm using FlowArt resin pigment. I get this from the epoxy resin store, and this green is really nice and deep shade of green, and it complements the pigments that I'm using from Black Diamond as well. So I'm just going to mix that in. I'm really trying to get a lot of detail with these pigments. The micas should be able to display nicely through transparent. When you want to keep a pigment or some of your resin color transparent, add your pigments slowly. So you can see I started with a small amount, and then I went back and added a little bit more, and finally got to the shade that I wanted. There it is. Real pretty stuff. All right, all the colors are ready, so here comes the good stuff. I'm starting with the emerald green from Black Diamond. I want the dark green to make a really dramatic edge at the outside of these geode molds. I got these molds from Let's Resin, and you can find them on Amazon. They do sell there. There's a lot of different geode molds out there. Now I'm moving on to the Hunter Green, again from Black Diamonds, and I'm just going around filling them from the outside of the mold towards the inside. Now I'm going to add that FlowArt resin green, and again this is the transparent, but if you watch carefully you'll see the Black Diamond's mica pigments already starts to shift and move, and it wants to go into those transparent colors. I'm going to fill the center with some clear resin, and that pushes everything back out. And then I'm going to start dropping in some of that glitter in the center of these geodes. I only used a tiny bit of resin to moisten that glitter, so here I'm just dropping a little bit clear on top, and that pushes that out. I moved my pure white black diamond pigment into a paper cup so that I could pinch it and create a spout. I did a little bit of a wiggle pattern there to kind of make it interesting. I don't want just rings. And then I go over top of it again with the clear. So basically that's what you're doing. Pop the bubbles. I like to do that in between. I don't want to have the whole thing filled up. Now I'm just going to start laying the colors back over top of each other until I've used up all my pigments available, all my resin available. So I'm just going to keep building on top of my layers here, again, until I don't have any pigment left. And I want to give a recommendation to my viewers. First of all, I want to give a shout out to a very good friend of mine, Deborah Strahan. She is lovely. If you haven't checked out her channel, please go over to her channel, and she's just a sweetheart. She really loves her viewers, and she's got some awesome pigments that she sells. She's based out of Canada, and she just does a terrific job, so give her a check. And also Edga Wargan Art, if you haven't watched her channel, give her channel a watch. She does some resin coasters, and she has inspired me many times to try making some of these beautiful little pieces. So I'm running out of resin. I'm going to give it a hit with the embossing tool, and that's just going to pop bubbles. It's going to move those colors into one another, and then we're going to be ready to let them sit and cure overnight. I'm going to cover them with a plastic tub, and that will do it. A little bit of twinkle of glitter, and good night. Well, I'm back, everybody, and I put this plastic container over top of the coasters while they're curing. That helps to keep any dust and particles off of the surfaces. Let's do an unmolding. What do you think? They turned out pretty good. Notice how when I left these, there was a little bit more definition on what looked like a little flower pattern. And as the resin is curing, because it's drawing towards the center, you get a variation, and it's pretty cool technique. So the mica powders from Black Diamond have drifted in there. The glitter has settled down into the bottom, but it's still very clear in there. So let's get these out of their molds and take a peek at what we got. I usually don't like the backs, the bottoms of the molds. And I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I'm usually happy with just looking at that. Okay, let's keep going. You can see that the molds are releasing from the resin very easily, so that's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to, there'll be a link in the description box for Black Diamond Pigments. I'm really pleased with how they performed in here. Let's see if I can, I don't know, I might have to go outside, but, oh no, you can see. There. See how transparent that center is? That's really what I was going for by adding the clear in the middle there, and it definitely worked. So that's good. But the colors from the Black Diamond Pigments, that pearlescent, is just lovely on there. Very, very nice. Now we're gonna do the sides, and I used to use the Craft Smart, they're a oil-based marker, and I had this, and I gave it a try. I don't know, a couple of weeks back I gave using the Gilding paint a try. So this one's brass, and what I found was this really just gives a very good layer coating. With the markers, I was seeing that, you know, maybe I had to go back over a couple of areas twice. So I started switching to this, and I'm liking it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the sides here, and then I'm going to put a lip edge around, and I'm going to put them on top of these old yogurt cups that I like to use as stands. And somebody asked me, I posted one of my videos of doing this on my Instagram account and also on Facebook. So if you're not following me on Instagram or on Facebook, you might want to look me up in there. I'm listed as Moonkusser Art in those spots, and the links are also in my description box. So come on over. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yikes! Hold on. Okay, there's a disaster. I did not expect that to happen. Let's get that drop off of there quickly. Whew. Okay, I got another clean paper towel in case I get crazy again. Right. Fresh gloves. And there's another thing. Speaking of gloves, I use nitrile gloves when I'm working with resin. Nitrile gloves are going to last longer, and they're better than vinyl gloves because they give you a better barrier to protect you from the chemicals that you're using in resin. So it's a, you know, good idea to invest in those. Okay, so here's my gilding paint. The color I'm using today is brass. They've got silver, they've got gold. They're all very nice. And somebody asked me, you know, they said, oh yeah, I tried using the paint, and when I went to clean my brush, it went to gook. Well, that's because you got to use turpentine. And this, I've had this can for about 25 years. So I don't even know if this is available anymore. But you can see the can is got some age to it. So I don't use it very often, but I'm figuring that this is an enamel. Let's see if it even says on the side. Now I'm being really careful. It doesn't tell me what it is, but I'm figuring it's an enamel paint. Okay, so in the sake of caution, I'm gonna get these out of my way because I do not want to spill paint on them again. And we're gonna just gild the sides. Now, again, you can see I've got a little bit of that lip edge, and that happens when you use a silicone mold. The you know, the tension from the silicone is gonna have the resin kind of curl up and go up into a lip there. So I don't even worry about taking that off because this is the side I'm gonna clear coat. And I wanna add my gilding paint before I do the clear coat, because the gilding paint, if you don't clear coat it, it has the potential of rubbing off. And, you know, for me, this is a coaster and people are going to need to be able to clean it off. And if they start cleaning it off and the gilding paint comes off, that's not good. I don't want that. So I always start with the sides. This is just a cheap old brush, number 2 level from Artist Loft. I think I did some kind of a purchase from them, and I got containers of multiple brushes. So it's a hairbrush, but it's a cheapy little thing. But this size works really well for my applying. So I did shake this container really well to stir it, to mix it up, and that's all that it needs. So I always start with the sides, and I'm just going to lay that on there nice and smooth. And it goes on really nicely. Got a little bubble there. just like that, just spreading it on. Now, if it gets on the bottom just a little bit, okay, whatever. I don't care. Doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go all the way around and apply this gilding all the way around on all of these, okay? So let's fast forward. You can see the bubbles that are in the edge of the piece, and you know, when you're using a thicker resin, that's what happens. You can't, you know, that's not going to ruin the look of the piece. It really isn't. So I get over that easily. So let me put you on fast forward. Sides are all done. Now we're going to do a lip edge. Oh, geez. I got a splash. Well, I know I'll be able to get that off of there. I'll have to get my turpentine and a Q-tip. Actually, why not show you guys what I'm going to do, right? All right, let's see if I can get this paintbrush to stay there. And let's keep it off the tabletop, and let me grab a Q-tip. Just a, you know, junky little Q-tip. My turpentine is in this airtight container, and this container has been, look it down in there. This container has been around for quite a while. Even though it says odorless, it's not odorless. Yeah, who are they kidding? I open that container and I can smell it. So make sure that you're working in a room that has good ventilation. And that's kind of cool. That's the paper towel I used before. Look at how the pink came around the edges. So now's the time to clean this off, because I'm going to clear coat it. So any kind of, you know, wonky looking stuff that happens on here will be covered up by that clear coat. Beautiful. One itty bitty little speck there. So you can see it just takes that right off. I've got a little speck over here, but that's okay. That's going to be in the gilding, so we don't care about that. Okay. So you can see it just took that little tiny spot right off. Okay? Right. Back to it. Let's cover up that turpentine, because it ain't odorless. There. All right. Now, I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm going to take a nice breath, clear out, because that's what helps you get a steady hand, right? You want to be using a steady hand, trying to keep my shadows out here. So I'm just going to take the brush and very carefully draw my line. So for me, my tip to getting a nice line is drawing it towards me. That, you know, find out what works better for you. For me, that works better. And here's my pearl of wisdom in this one. Watch out. I had a painter friend of mine tell me a long time ago, when I was doing a lot of house renovations and painting my trim, say, draw your brush into the wet. So I start up here, and I know I've got about that much that I can draw. And that blends it into the wet. Rather than, if I started here, I would create a brush mark. So that is my pearl. It's a pearl. Wisdom. Draw into your wet. And that's another reason why. Yep. See how pretty? This is lovely. So I'm just going to use that same technique, drawing the paint into what's already down, and get this one done and move on to the others. Now, let's get the lid on this paint before I can have the possibility of doing any more damage. There it goes. Make sure the lid's on tight. And now we're going to clean that brush tip. Okay. So here's my turpentine. And like I said, you can see it's been, this container's been around for a while. And I'm just gonna, pretty sure you guys aren't gonna be able to see this, but I don't want to disturb the stuff that's sitting in the bottom. So I just roll my brush back and forth on the side. And I try to, you can look in there and see if there's a lot of pigment still coming out. And it's getting less and less. Just keep going back and forth. And that's a clean looking brush. And here's my paper towel. I'll just give it one more little swoosh. Yeah. And that's it. My brush is clean and will dry. Close this up. Okay. All right, we are ready to do the next step. And that is, so this is, it's been about an hour, and this is all dry to the touch. All the gilding paint is dry, so I like that. Now I'm going to protect the back because I'm going to do that top coat of resin. So, just gonna flip these all over, and I'm going to apply some liquid latex. One of my viewers suggested doing that. If you've watched some of my other videos that I do with coasters, I usually like to put the Scotch Blue tape down, and that works really well. But on these geode shapes, boy, let me tell you, it's a bugger cutting in. So one of my viewers said, oh, you're making it too hard on yourself. Use liquid latex. So, hey, I'm open to new ideas. And I bought some of this off of Amazon. And I'm not a huge fan of it because it is a little bit tricky. I like to seal it with a piece of foil, so because it's gummy. This stuff is gummy. So I'm not a huge fan of it because I still find I have to do a little bit of cleanup on the edges when I use this, but I gotta tell you, it's much faster to put this on than to sit and cut the tape. So I have these brushes. I did a thing with Michaels and got packs of these free brushes when I was doing purchases. So these are my throwaway brushes. There are no directions, with how to clean your brush or anything like that. It doesn't say anything on here about doing it. Let's see, if you spill it, clean it up with warm water. Yeah, so I've tried all different ways to get these brushes cleaned up. And guess what? It never works. So thank you, Michaels, for giving me these brushes, and that's what I use. And so I'm just gonna go one by one. I put it into a cup so it's easy for me to get at it, and I start in the center and work out. And I go pretty heavy on this because I found if you don't go heavy on it, that's where it really gives you an issue on the edges. You can see I have a little bit of gilding paint that has, you know, because of my brush strokes or whatever, it came around to the other side. I don't care. This is the side nobody's going to see. This is the side that's going to face the table. So I'm not worrying about having to clear coat this. So I'm going to seal it off with the liquid latex. That way it protects it from the drips that go around the edge. And like I said, I'm going kind of heavy-handed. It says that it's dry. When I tried to look up directions about liquid latex, it said that it is dry in 24 hours. Can you imagine if you were trying to, you know, make skin effects or do something and you had to wait 24 hours for it to do that? I don't know. It seems kind of strange, but that's what it said. So I found that in this application, it's usually dry in maybe 4 hours. There they are. They're all set to go. I'm going to let that sit there and dry, and I will be back. Okay, it's 6 hours later, and the latex is all cleared. So now I've batched up 4 ounces of the resin. Again, it's the Counterculture Artist Resin, and I have a fingertip over top of my pointer finger, and I'm using that, dipping it into the cup, and I'm using it like a paintbrush to apply the resin to the edges. I'm starting on the edges first, and using my finger I can actually feel that I'm getting good coverage. So you know, it works good for me, and sometimes I go back and, you know, check it, but this works. Take off that fingertip, and now I'm going to just pour some puddles of the resin right onto the top of those coasters there. And you can see that my top is leveled because the puddles are spreading out nice and even. I use my pop stick and I spread the resin right to that lip edge on the coasters. Just draw it out that way. There you go. Okay. Clean up my finger a little bit. I'm kind of sticky. I'm going to use my torch and get those bubbles out of there. So, you know, I mixed up my resin really fast. Now, here I want to slow down. I zoomed in the camera view and I'm pointing out that some of the brass gilding has weeped into the clear coat top. So luckily I batched up plenty of resin, and you can see I'm laying down a band of clear, and then I'm just going to push and sweep, and there goes the brass. Goodbye. Okay, we're going to finish up, give it a torch, pop the bubbles, and say goodnight. We did the clear coat yesterday, and it sat overnight underneath a plastic container, and that's so that I can keep any dust from settling onto the surface. And here is the back, so you can see I've got a couple of drips that came around, and you know, that's what happens. And I've got that coating on the back from the liquid latex, so I have to remove that. As far as getting the liquid latex off, let's see if I can get it so you guys can see it there. So it's pretty easy, you know. I put it on, like I said, I put it on the thicker side because I found that if I put it on thin, it was harder to get off. You know, it's fun stuff, right? But what happens is the drips are still there. Now they're on top of the liquid latex, but because the resin has cured hard overnight, I'm going to need to warm them up, and that's how I'll get them off. So I've got my embossing tool right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to warm that up, and that will break, or it'll make it more pliable, and I'll be able to pop those off. Like I said before, I find this a little bit more tedious than doing the tape because, you know, sometimes it can get stuck. Be really careful at your edges. Make sure that you're warming those drips up. And if they're not like bending, because I've actually seen it where it'll kind of lift your edge off a little bit, and you don't want that because it's still not at 100% cured. This isn't going to be 100% cured until a month from now. So that's why it's important to get those drips off the next day, or else it's going to be more difficult to remove them. So anyway, that's my process on getting those drips off. I'm going to go about doing the same thing on the rest of these, and then I'm going to see if I can get some good pictures for you to get a close-up look, okay? So let me get to that, and I'll see you soon. Well, here they are, the finished product, Hunter Green Geodes. I think the colors are lovely. I can't wait to put them to use. And if you like what you've seen, if you're interested in getting some of the products, remember your work is only going to be as good as the products that you use. Black Diamond Pigments and Counterculture Resin both work really well in this type of an application. I'm going to put up a couple other videos for you to check out, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing and ring the bell. That way you'll always be notified on videos that come up and available. Have a good day, and thanks for watching.